Hello guys, welcome back to ELA. Today we're going to be doing our timeline lesson. So today we are going to read a timeline. It's a timeline about Anne and Gilbert Blythe. A timeline has dates and information on it, and the dates tell you when things happen. The timeline lets us see how things change over time. You can make timelines about all different kinds of things. So if you guys remember when we were in class, towards the beginning of the year, we made timelines about our own lives. And then we also made timelines about the human life cycle from a fetus to an elderly person. So let's take a look at an example of a timeline. So if you take a look at the top, not the Post-its, just the top. This is an example of a very basic timeline, and it's titled Molly Grows Up. And we see it's labeled age 1, age 5, and age 12. So you start at age 1 and you work your way up. So from right to left. From left to right. It looks backwards. From left to right, the same way that you would read a book is how you would read a timeline. Okay, so on the timeline, there's three ages, and underneath I have a Post-it of 3 life events. They're not in the correct order. So one says Molly goes to middle school, one says Molly learns to walk, and one says Molly goes to kindergarten. Oh no, I accidentally wiped off Molly's age over here. Apologies, age 12. So we need to figure out in which order do these life events belong. So when you are 1 year old, what is it that you would be doing? Would you be going to middle school, learning to walk, or going to kindergarten? What do you guys think? Middle school, learning to walk, or kindergarten? Right, you would be learning to walk, right? So I'm going to pick this up, and for the timeline, we would put for age 1, Molly learns to walk at age 1. Next, we have age 5. Right here, I have Molly goes to middle school, and the other one is Molly goes to kindergarten. What do you think belongs for age 5? Kindergarten, right? So we would take this life event and put it here. And then last but not least, Molly goes to middle school. And then we would have a complete timeline from ages 1 to 12. Molly learns to walk at age 1. Molly goes to kindergarten at age 5. And Molly goes to middle school at age 12. So that's how we complete a timeline. A very basic timeline. Okay. So now we are going to read an article on a timeline from chapter 9. So everyone attached has their own timeline article that they can follow along with while I read out loud. In our story, Anne of Green Gables, Anne and Gilbert have known each other for many years. At first, they were enemies, and then later on, they actually become friends. So let's read a timeline article to find out how exactly this happened. How did they go from enemies to friends, okay? And when we read the timeline, we're going to start on the left, like I said, and we'll work our way to the right. And that way it'll be easy for us to tell how Anne's relationship with Gilbert changed from the beginning to the end of the story. All right, so follow along while I read out loud. From an enemy to a friend. At first, Anne and Gilbert are not friends. Gilbert is mean to Anne. Anne calls Gilbert her enemy, but over time, Anne and Gilbert become friends. Let's see how that happens. All right, first event on the timeline is right here, age 11. Anne puts roses in her hat and goes to Sunday school. She meets Gilbert Blythe, who laughs at Anne's hat. Anne says that Gilbert is her worst enemy. You guys remember that from the beginning of the book, right? Then at age 12, at school, Gilbert pulls Anne's braid and calls her names. Anne hits Gilbert over the head. Gilbert tries to tell Anne that he is sorry. Anne will not forgive him. I'm sure everyone remembers that part of the story too, when she hit him over the head with her slate. That's age 12. Now we skip to age 16 on the train going to college. Anne and Gilbert ride the train together to college, but Anne never speaks to Gilbert. She is still angry at him. So at age 16, she's still angry at Gilbert. Then we go to age 17 at the end of the book, chapter 10. Gilbert gives Anne his job so she can be close to Marilla. Anne finally sees Gilbert as a kind and caring young man. Anne and Gilbert are friends at last. And we see in the picture they're holding hands. And we remember that they became friends after Gilbert did that big favor to help Anne. Okay, so now that I've read the timeline out loud to you guys, I'd like you to go reread it on your own, look at the pictures, remember the events, remind yourself of everything that happened at each point in Anne's life and her relationship with Gilbert Blythe, and then you guys will answer your timeline questions on your Google form. All right, good job, guys.